DA-53 T-Touch Interface, Conventional Basic Operations. The first step is to choose the bending method. There are 4 ways. The most commonly used method is free bending. Okay, we choose free bending. Some people don't understand what free bending is. Just change the angle arbitrarily. Change the angle at will. This is called free bending. Okay, step 2. Length. Length is the length of the sheet. For example, what is the length of the sheet metal you want to bend? 2 meters or 3 meters. Depends on the length of your device. 2 meters, I will press 2 meters. Product positioning. This place is usually used on top of 6+1. If you are not 6+1, you don't need this thing. Let's move to the next step. Input angle. For example, how many degrees of bending do you require? 90 degrees. Let's input 90 degrees. Be sure, correction AE and correction AR is angle correction, just like enter 90 degrees. What is the actual angle of the? For example, I entered 90, bending it out is 91. Then the overall reduction is E degree E. Is this E? When you correct AE, AR will follow and change at the same time. If you want to correct one side, for example, 90 degrees, Y is 90, YR is 91. Then I want to change YR, don't want to change YE, then we can 0 YE. YR modified E. Did you see it? The number on the Y-axis will change accordingly. Be sure, then the YE-axis and YR-axis, the numbers behind this. Down the Y-axis to this point. What is this distance? It's this number. Where do you look from? From our. Look from the upper right corner. After we finish inputting, run, step it down. For example, Y1 135.26, YR 135.35. Our location will show from Y1 to 135.26. YR goes to 135.35. This is his bottom dead center, arrived at the designated location. The speed transition point is a point at which it slows down. It's the slider. For example, my system is currently displaying the position of 36 position. You can clearly see it here. For example, I have entered 50. For example, he came down 50. Speed conversion point. Enter 50, he will come down to the position of 50, then slow down and descend, or enter 100. When you reach 100, go down slowly. Usually speed conversion point can calculate on their own. No need for us to modify it manually. If you want to modify it, it can also be modified, but its speed conversion point cannot be greater than the bottom dead center. Otherwise, when you step on it, he will press directly onto the mode, return. It was the height he stepped on and got up. For example, when I reach the set point, rising to 20, then I'll enter 20 on my return trip. If you remember it is 100, I will enter 100. Because someone wants to get the material out, calculate according to the edge of your material. If the edge is large, increase the distance between the molds a bit. Now it is 90. Then the tonnage is calculated automatically. You don't need to modify speed, holding time. This will also be automatically calculated. You don't need to modify it either. If it is stainless steel, can be operated manually, or let him calculate automatically. Unloading is his unloading distance. What is unloading distance? He comes down and presses down on your board. Lift it up and then return. Such a height. For example, it is currently 0.06. He pressed it to 135.26, which is the position of the y-axis. After 135.26, then it will rise 6 silk, equal to return to 135.2, suddenly accelerating upwards at this moment. This is his speed. People who bend a large board, as may need to use them. Large board, some of us will add that t-axis. The t-axis is with flipping. If someone pushes it, if it's like this place, let's increase the unloading distance a bit. You can also slowly make him fall down, but if the unloading distance is short, he suddenly accelerated upwards, the board will suddenly descend. This force, if not removed, sometimes there are some safety accidents. Speed. This is the speed of our work. Usually, he calculates automatically. No need for us to modify it. You can also modify, but he has internal parameters inside. What is the maximum value that will be set? The maximum of this machine now is 12. Unloading speed is also set internally. What's the maximum? It is also 12. This is automatically calculated. No need to manually modify it. You can make it smaller, but you can't make it bigger, because it has already been set up internally. You make it smaller. You can change it to 1. Alternatively, it could be changed to 0.1. But this speed is very slow. Sometimes, you may only realize it while using it. Then there is one here, waiting to be withdrawn. What is wait and withdraw? This function is usually used in automatic settings. It is basically useless on touch interfaces. I want to explain it here. Today we will only talk about the touch interface. Plate thickness. The thickness of the board is the one you need to bend now. For example, 1.0 or 1.2, 1.5. For example, if it's 1, I'll enter 1. After you enter, you will see the positions he automatically calculates will change accordingly. You see the position of the y-axis. Because its thickness, S is different, it may calculate different positions. The speed conversion point will change accordingly. Tonnage, unloading distance, deflection compensation is automatically calculated. Then the material. Look now. 1毫米. Then the position of point S is 135.4. Then the pressure is 15.1. If I were to switch to stainless steel, his pressure will be even greater. Then the position of the bottom dead center will increase accordingly. See, this is 1.0 stainless steel, and then the pressure became 24.3. Unloading distance. It also increases. If you are iron plate, then you use iron plate, then the upper and lower modes. Select mode library. Let's click it. Which upper mode on the screen is installed in the bending machine? Just click to select which one. For example, now it is 120. The same goes for the lower mode. Choose the one that is installed above. For example, V12. What is the x-axis? The x-axis is a position for the rear stop material. WhatsApp 0086599431971987. What is a retreat? Usually, it may only be used when in a Z shape. I won't talk about this for now. Give in, generally don't worry. If you have non-standard ones, you may need them. Z-shaped. Usually used in the Z shape. What is the R-axis? It is the positioning behind the back gauge, that is, from front to back, it is X. But the rear gauge also has an up and down movement, and the up and down movement is the R-axis. The ling position is basically parallel to your current mode. When inputting ling, it is exactly level with the lower die. At that time, your blocking finger would block the sheet metal. Then deflection compensation is mechanical compensation. If the middle angle is large during bending, at this point, you will manually modify or automatically calculate, because the automatic calculation has errors, but this error will have a range. For example, my 2 ends are 90 degrees. He automatically calculated that it could be 91, the latter 90.5, maximum exceeding around 92. How can we modify it manually? 1 degree. For example, bending 90 degrees, then is R degrees bigger. How can I modify it? Like this V-shaped mouth. This V was originally 12. What is 1 degree? I want deflection compensation, that is 6. Then based on half of the slot. For example, my current size is 6, and the middle is R degrees large, R after bending, then I need to add 12. That is 18. But with the plum blossom logo, it can operate, because I am currently calculating automatically. If the deflection compensation does not have automatic calculation, there will be no plum blossom symbol when you modify it. If it is automatically calculating, you modify it, it will have a plum blossom sign. Usually, the calculations FO on this place won't be so different. Now click Run, the back gauge, positioning on the R axis, parallel to the mode. Okay, let's step on it with our feet.